Hello. Hello, everybody who joins us on LinkedIn, and maybe someone joined us on YouTube as well. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here. I'll move to a better view. I'm so happy to have you here in this webinar where we'll discuss how once you have moved to Atlassian with your highly regulated team in your highly regulated engineering environment, you can actually start taking advantage of this new environment to accelerate the speed of your engineering results. I'm very happy to be joined today by Gabi Nir. No relationship whatsoever, just by chance, the two best people are having the same family name. So a few sentences about why I thought she would be the best partner for the project, for this topic. So oftentimes when I see my customers who are primarily pharmaceutical and medical technology companies who are moving into Atlassian to accelerate their engineering impact, once they move to Atlassian, they deploy a big group of Scrum Masters, Agile practices, start to do retrospectives, all these things. But to be honest, I think that just looking at the sprint level in our environment is not enough. You have to look in a more systematic way to look at the whole organization, take into account other teams that are beyond the pure development team. And Gabi is an expert exactly for this discipline that is called engineering operations. She will present the discipline shortly, but she has done the unbelievable thing and created an amazing engineering operation community back in Israel. I say back in Israel because Israel is where I originally come from. Imagine that this community alone counts almost 700 practitioners working only in engineering operations in the biggest high-tech companies in Israel. So imagine the big impact that the high-tech companies in Israel have, and boom, I think that Gabi is one of the champions of this impact, and don't be too modest about it.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
And what me and Gabi did is come together a few months ago and discussed how we can actually bring some engineering operation magic into this highly regulated environment where I work in. So the webinar you will be watching today is a culmination of a process that took quite a lot of meetings and brainstorms and get together to deliver engineering operation essentials to people who are working in very in very large enterprises that are highly regulated, especially pharmaceutical and medical technology companies. And of course, what we will share today is a taster, but I think it's a meaningful taster and will cover quite a lot of ground and try to be also very concrete, not only high level. So Gabi, after this introduction, do you want to add anything about yourself?
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and excited to share. I'll quickly share that in our Engineering Operations Center, we believe that it's the professional home for engineering operations, and this also consists the technical program managers, Scrum Masters, delivery managers, everyone that is around delivering the product in the engineering aspect, though there is a lot of overlapping also with product operations, but I'll say a little bit about it later. As part of leading this profession in Israel, we also accept the community. We also have an academy branch where with the Hebrew University in Israel, we have a technical program managers course where we teach the basics about sprints and about Scrum and Agile and Jira and stuff like that. We also have a methodology branch, or focusing on creating the next methodologies and the next best practices, and of course consulting in order to increase our impact. And one last thing, I'm the humble author of a book that elaborates on the center's practical framework about how delivering faster and better. It's in Hebrew, but it is in the process of being translated, and I'll be happy to share one once it's done.
Okay, can't wait to get a copy, Gabi.
Yeah. If for you, it's I'm saving one for you.
Okay, what we will be trying to cover today, or covering today, will let Gabi introduce the concept of engineering operations and introduce us to the topic. Then we'll look into an actual case study inspired by a real company, looking into the details of some of the challenges that they incurred when trying to accelerate the velocity of their the speed of their delivery and the impact of their engineering team. We'll be heavily looking also on Jira to see what are the tools that we have available on Jira to help us grow this muscle of not only working in a very compliant way. This is something that most of you would have already strong muscles for, but also growing this muscle of actually how do we do compliance with moving quicker. And yes, we could not finish this webinar without sprinkling some AI magic. So we will show something involving AI and Rovo. Don't fear, this will be covered as well. Now, you can post comments on the LinkedIn page. We will be receiving them here and answer them. We do have a dedicated space for Q&A at the very end, but if there is an urgent comment, you can post it, and if it's appropriate, we will answer it in between. So, Gabi, I'm handing you the stage, and 1 second. Something is, 1 second, I will add. Yes, here we are. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so let's start with one of the most basic concepts that are underlying everything we work for, which is Agile. And if I start with a saying, then our mothers used to tell us, do the best you can, do as much as possible, right? At least my mom always did. And Agile is about literally the opposite of it. It's about doing as little as possible, but in context. It's doing as little as possible that delivers value to the customer, that can provide, that he can provide feedback back. And one of the things that I see is that a lot of people say, I have dailies, I do planning, and then say, I am Agile. While the Agile concept is about how you work, how you break big ideas or big initiatives into smaller items. And the idea behind it, the question that we should always ask ourselves in order to be more agile is, are we breaking this as little as possible, as small as possible, in order to provide value that will bring back feedback. And I'll use my one of my favorite examples is the emojis on WhatsApp. It all started in 2011. I don't think we can imagine our lives without it. And the way the WhatsApp team has started using emojis is just providing support on iOS devices. That's it. You would expect from the emojis product manager to say, we have our own design. We want to be able to control the variety of emojis. But they didn't do that. They provided as little value as possible that got them feedback. They just allowed having those emojis on the WhatsApp platform. Going back 2 years later, we have expanded our support. WhatsApp expanded their support to Android. And in 2015, their next step was adding the skin tone. Now, why did they do that? Because they understood that their customers are using, and they empathize, they feel like they're emojis. And in this way, they want the emojis to look like them and to fit and to be the same as their own skin tone. Only in 2017, 6 years after emojis were released, did WhatsApp introduce their own emojis design. And even then, in 2022, they added the emoji reactions. Again, it's a reaction to how the customers use it. You probably have a group where you opened and you had 30 unread messages, and all of them were one thumb up saying, I do. So they provided feedback. So based on that feedback, they gave the ability to react on a specific message with an emoji. So when looking at Agile, we usually speak about much faster pace, right? Here we are talking in years, and in Agile, we usually talk in sprints. But all the same, this provides a good example to show how a company prioritized based on customers' feedback rather than their own imagined roadmap, and always reacting. So when you break something, you have to break it as small as possible, give it to the customers, and based on that feedback, understand what is your next step in the roadmap. And that's the big change between having dailies and working in an agile way. And if we expand and take this term even further, and we expand Agile into incremental involvement and continuous learning, then on a major scale, we reach the engineering operations discipline. The idea is to have an operational view on the engineering department as a whole, to see things that are cross teams within the department, within the engineering department. One of the most important roles that we have is overseeing the engineering workflows and the developer experience across the board. This means leading the PI planning and measuring and tracking the OKRs, the defining and setting the tools that we'll be working with. So we have a lot of work now with AI on deciding on which tool and how to use it. And on the interfaces, we always have as an engineering interfaces with other departments, marketing and sales and support. And those cross-department workflows are the exactly things that we work on. Except that we have ownership on the software development lifecycle. And in here is managing the end-to-end SDLC, managing the products themselves. This is partially overlapping what we know as program managers or as PMOs. And sometimes this is a bit of why sometimes engineering operations might be called as technical program managers, or at least receive some of their ownership and their responsibilities. Our third one that we work quite a lot on, and this is what we will be focusing in this use case, is the scaling of the engineering. How do we provide better working procedures and better tools? How do we find points of friction and fix them within our processes? Or how do we get or receive or decide on a specific success metric and work towards improving it? Whether we want to improve predictability or our pace or quality, this is exactly within the engineering operations realm to work on, see the overall picture, and try and insert all types of amendments. And overall, all of this is, of course, all the as the team that sees the department as a whole, see the workflows end-to-end in the engineering department. One of our main key roles is to keep the regulation and the compliance. So every workflow we have, every workflow we improve is always kept within the compliance and the regulation. Yes. But, well, obviously the question should be, what are we improving, right? We're improving, but what do we want to improve? Where are we heading? Then everybody knows the golden triangle of project management, the more classical one, talking about the scope and time and resources and quality, of course. But I believe that in the engineering operations discipline, we focus on a bit of a different success metrics that provide us a better North Star. The first is predictability, planned versus actual. The second, which is quite obvious, right? What we have planned versus what we have actually done. The pace, I think, is super critical. It's not only just work as fast as you can, but also show how many days are you actually moving to done. What is the cycle time from an idea until we have something at our customer's production system, how much time, how many days pass, or how many weeks, or how many months we want. And cycle time, I will just put this as a small note, is not necessary. We decide on the cycle time. We can decide that since we don't control the amount of times that we release to a customer, our cycle time can also be released into integration environment or testing environment that from our point of view is the end point until there is an official release. And that's good enough. And even then, when we track back, how much time does it take and how can we improve it? It has their own beneficials, and our use case will focus on that one. Our last thing in except quality is the impact, having the right features at the right time. This is very much related into the product work, but not only. It's about us working on a more prioritized tasks, making sure that we are focusing on what matters, because it's not only features, that there are also bugs and technical debt and other things, and we must make sure that we are working on the right mix that provides the right impact. And last but not least, if not the most important, is the quality, where I chose to put just one, in my view, the most important measurement of escape bugs, because bugs that are found by our customers are hurting our reputation. It means it skipped all of our tests and checkups at points. So that's where I focus first. And generally speaking, yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to say that escape bugs is indeed the most important metrics, but as it were in this world of medical technology and pharmaceutical, quality is also measured with having the right paperwork in place, documentation, approval, etc. And although it may have only indirect impact on the user experience, for the health of the business and the whole operation, we need to have it as well. So that may be an extra layer that is special for this universe we are talking about.
I agree. It has also, just to add to what you have said, I totally agree, because the quality is also within the compliance and what our customers expect. Another layer that we can take from this is also that the quality, when you release only twice a year, like we will see in our use case, escape bugs is a very, very serious matter. The quality that we should be checking as our primary metric should be how many bugs do we find in our end-to-end environment or in the staging, very close to because if we find it at the customer, it's because we have so few releases a year, we cannot get to it. We have one chance, and it has to be much, much higher quality than just expecting when, like Google, they deliver and then they fix it one time after. So that's for sure. And generally speaking, I also work a lot with critical mission systems such as electricity and cyber and stuff like that. And because they are highly regulated environments and very critical, and our challenge in this, because we have so much compliance, we called it a gravitational force, then it is very easy to fall with this into slower pace, to lower our impact. And our challenge is to overcome this and find a very original, innovative ways of changing our assumptions and providing creative solutions. And that's a real challenge, and we'll tackle that soon. How to improve? Then there are many ways and many methodologies in which people choose to improve in the world. I find that in engineering operations, this specific methodology created by our center provides a good example and a good foundation for end-to-end improvement cycle. And I'll say that the view of it is the infinity loop that everybody knows. How we work with it is we start from the left side. We have on the left loop, we have alignment through Jira fields and statuses and more tools provided us by Jira. They provide us the ability to align our workflows and to collect the data. Our meeting point at the middle is the visibility. Due to the alignment, we collect data and we can, with dashboards and AI analysis, and we'll show today both, we can provide view and visibility into things that until now were only a hunch or a gut feeling, but were not based on real data. The last loop on the right is the improvement cycle, where we use qualitative analysis. We talk to our people, not only AI and data, but we set together the improvement loop. We collect more data. We analyze the possible solutions. We apply it, and then we learn whether it worked well or we should go back into another loop of improvement. And I will say this is not the visual was very, very carefully chosen, because it's a never-ending task to improve. We always, once we find one bottleneck and we solve it, we find the next one. And while it might sound frustrating, it's actually quite exciting.
Yes, but and I think that because of this infinity, I always think about it as a organizational muscle, because muscles is something that you need to constantly practice, constantly train, not only to grow them, but even to maintain. If you don't continue with the practice, it will atrophy and you will slide back.
Precisely. I think also that every time I work somewhere, people come and tell me, I have an idea for an improvement. Just the fact that you put the idea of improvement and the process, that people understand how will it work, provides a lot of value and a lot of initiatives that are under the hood within everybody in the field, and it provides the ability to put them on the ground and let them grow. Okay, so with this in mind, let's quickly dive into our case study. I'll start by saying that I've heard a lot of times our customers saying, no, we're different. We cannot apply Agile. We're different. It doesn't work for us. Or we've finished. That's my favorite. We're finished. We're in Jira.
We are done.
We have planning. We have dailies. We're done. And I love it, because after we work a little bit together, we always see how much more can we improve, not because the basic was bad, but the potential is really big. So I want to show you a case that we took from the pharma, as you will see in a minute, based on true events and true story, but don't look but of course we changed the details. So it's
anonymous. It's anonymous.
Exactly, confidentiality. But we'll show you a case where we wanted to be better. The company felt heavy, producing value very slowly. A lot of bugs were found, and there were a lot of defects, and we wanted to become better. And this case is about it, and about raising the pace, the predictability, and impact. So, Rina, I think
yes. So the company we are talking about is a very established and large organization in its industry. It has a super successful device for renal care. It's been in hospital for the last 20 years. It's a piece of hardware with software on it. Both the hardware and the software has been upgraded and improved over the years, and they still continue to be very dominant in the market. They have a very recognized brand. It's very successful, and they do not think of retiring this device anytime soon. So they don't have the luxury to start from scratch. They recently have moved all their legacy data from their old application life sciences lifecycle management systems into Atlassian, with the idea and the purpose to bring the whole engineering into the 21st century, start being more agile, recognizing the fact that it's still a mixed hardware and software team, and realizing that at least at the first instance, they are still bound into those twice a year cycles. Having said that, they believe that what they can deliver every 6 months should be a much larger improvement, more impactful, and that they can really, really take this brand into the future if they just have a more modern engineering practice.
Okay, thank you, Rina. So taking it to the next one, where we'll be focusing on one specific team on the treatment workflow domain. The team consists of 7 employees or people, 5 developers and 2 QA engineers. They work in a 1-week sprints. It's quite short. And they have peer reviews and SDD approvals that they do by themselves as quality gates as part of their as a workflow system. And our challenge was, as I said, was we wanted to increase pace, predictability, and quality, reduce much more impact, like Rina said, within our constraints. And one last thing before we dive in is our execution workflow, the idea of how the sprint is being managed, how engineering tasks are being managed. They work in the following statuses: ready for dev, in progress, ready for review, in review, ready for verification, and in verification. And of course, it's a part of the bigger picture of the SDLC, where we have the product at the beginning, providing specifications that should be defined well enough, going into engineering execution, and in order to finish the verification, that our last stage, it requires also the SDD approval as part of the compliance, because we want to verify whatever is according to our documentation, like Rina said before. Yeah. Okay. So we wanted to become better. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we wanted to become better, right? We wanted to increase our pace to see where the problems are. So we started with visibility to the data that we have out of the box in Jira, which is in the sprint report. And I will quickly review the sprint report so everybody will feel more. If you don't know it, then you will understand its true power. So generally speaking, it consists of 2 parts. The first part, which is above, it's called the burndown chart. It's a velocity and predictability chart that we will discuss later on. That's the first part. And the second part is the part where we receive a snapshot of the sprint at the end of the sprint. It consists of all the tickets that were completed within the sprint, all the tickets that were not completed in the sprint, and all the tickets that were removed from the sprint. Now, it's a snapshot. This means that if a ticket was not completed and at the point of that the sprint ended, it stopped in progress, the snapshot keeps it in progress, while the same task could move to the next sprint and become in review and done. In this snapshot, we keep the original state in which it was when the sprint ended. And now we will see what happened when we reviewed our data. Okay, so this is the part where we have in the status report. I must say, if you want to see it, when you enter, just a minute before, when you enter your own boards, then on the top there is some sort of a ruler, and there is specifically the reports there where you can press it.
Where is the report? They take it here.
Exactly. And in the reports, so you have more reports because they want to push their own dashboards. And you have the sprint report. You have many more reports. I can do a whole session only on them. But specifically, this is the sprint report and that we are working on.
We'll go into sprint number 1.
Sprint number 1, the beginning of our journey. What is our baseline? Obviously, when you try to improve, then you must have a baseline to know that you have made improvement. So what we saw here, that we have only 5 stories. I counted, so they're out of 16 that were moved to done in sprint 1. That's 31% of the sprint that was actually done. That's a very low amount. We don't expect it to be 100, but we expect the percentage to be around 80, 90%. and not 30. So that's one red light we should consider. The second red light, if you go down into the section of the issues that were not completed, 8 of the 11 remaining stories, if you see here on the status, remained at a stuck, in verification status. So when we say so obviously we see here a suspect in crime, right? We see that most of the stories get stuck at in verification. If we go back to our workflow, just a second. So we see this suspect in crime, we go back to the workflow. We understand that in verification, in a way, is our bottleneck. Oh,
sorry.
Okay, no. Pressed it together. So when we review again our workflow, we see that all things are stuck in verification status or stayed in verification status, probably due to something that has to do with the SDD approval. So the question is, what can we do? How can we add more data to understand where exactly do we get stuck in the way, or are we blocked, and understand a little bit the underneath data. So for that, we go back into our loop with the alignment. We miss more data that we want to add to the Jira. So we added the SDD unique ID. That means that for every story that needs to be released, we added the specific ID of the document that has to be verified before we go and before we can approve and complete the story. If you see here, Rina is showing exactly how we proved it. We added it. It is just a number, but for us, it provided the ability to track and to understand the majority or the size of the problem. And
yes, I just want to mention the fact that what we are seeing here is the flexibility of Jira as a platform to rather easily add collection of data points into your practice. And there is no need to ruin your controlled configuration in Jira. You can add fields. So when you design a controlled configuration of Jira, in Jira, you need to design it in a way that will allow you to expand and add more data collection into the mix, because that's part of the practice. Some of the data you will need to collect in order to analyze. It's not something that you will be imagining at the very start. You need to be in a position that you can add collection of data.
I agree with you, and I want to emphasize our main ability to improve our processes is based on adding Jira fields or statuses within compliance and within regulation. Of course, we have to keep that, but it is a very unique ability of Jira, and usually the engineering operations are the Jira admins. With great power comes a great responsibility not to add too many and to keep them. But this is the basic. Whenever we try to improve, we start with finding and providing visibility into the data behind it. So we ran a few sprints and we collected that data, and then we had visibility into it, and we could see. Rina, if you go to the dashboard.
Okay, will do. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one. So what we see here, which was very interesting, is we collected the data over our epics, and over 151 stories. We understood that how many stories in each epic are relying on a specific SDD doc. So you can see here on the right side, you have that for each epic, how many stories depended on it. 12, 10, 9, 8. Now, we don't have the percentage of 8 or 10 stories out of what, but I can tell you that it is around between 70 to 80% depend on a single SDD file, on a single SDD. And having said that means that there is something about the one SDD, this monolith of documentation, that is blocking us from making progress. And I think that we all understand that as part of compliance, this is not a simple problem. We understand that documentation is a critical part, and keeping it at the best and most updated status and verified completely before is very critical. But all the same, we have to find a way in order to make this work, because the result of not solving it, as we see it, is that our pace is much slower and our quality issues are discovered much later. So if we go back to the slides for a second, we had some discussions with our developers. We took legal into it to make sure that we are keeping compliance up and above. And we tracked the different ideas of how can we make this easier. And we we got into two approaches for the SDD. One is the incremental SDD, where you have a live document that is being edited and updated on a regular basis, and changing the concept, the very cultural basic concept of document is closed. And once we close it, we sign it we seal it with VAX, like many years ago. And that's one concept we wanted to break. Sorry. The second thought, or the second approach for people which it might be too innovative, or it provides some kind of a problem. We thought about having smaller SDDs, break the big SDDs into smaller ones. Now, this is also a very good solution, but I think you can all imagine that when you have the high level view in the one clear SDD that goes across all the documentation, it's much easier to manage and to review and to see the whole picture, rather than having a lot of smaller SDDs. So what we have decided to do is to go forward with the incremental SDD, the SDD that is an open document. And it was a huge shift in how we worked, because mentally we had to change our perception on documents from closed documents into incremental living assets, and we had to find the way of the operational implication. I mean, we didn't do this just for fun. We wanted to be able to finish stories sooner. So what we did is that we found the way for engineers and QA to be able to verify with an incremental SDD that is being edited, okay, and still verify it and move things to done. Now, yeah, do you want to add something, Rina?
Yes, I just want to say that this is a crucial point where I see a lot of organizations struggle. That actually is an example of this tension between wanting to work in small increments and push small increments into the integration environment, the staging environment, rather than going with a specific order of documentation that was actually designed to a waterfallish world. Yes, and often people say you cannot do Agile in pharma because you need all those, or in MedTech because you need all those documentation and sign-off, etc. But in fact, the regulation does not force you to work waterfall. You even have guidance like the AAMI TIR45, who promotes this notion of incremental delivery and incremental evolution of the version. And this is just something that came up. So when this team first moved to Jira, they did not understand the impact of the old ways of doing SDDs on their velocity in the new environment. Now that the environment is more agile, they want to work in sprints, etc. Suddenly they realize that the SDD, the way they did them, was actually a bottleneck. So that's the place to sit down together with all stakeholders, involve everybody that you need to involve in order to release this bottleneck.
I agree. I think that in those terms, it's very easy, especially nowadays with AI, and to take all the compliance documents and see exactly what are they demanding, because sometimes we have assumptions from previous attempts and they are no longer valid.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. The myth of best practices is all around us.
exactly. It's now so easy to read the small letters, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's a real opportunity in my view, because there are a lot of things that I've heard of people doing things and they say, but it's not written anywhere. And then you go back and it's not necessarily written. So you would say, Gabi, that's nice, but we release twice a year. So what would it give me? What value does it give me to make all this effort into moving things to done if it doesn't approach the customer? Now, when we move the stories to done, then we actually move them into integration tests or environment or testing environments. They are added to the mass of new features. They are tested every night. They have regression tests all over and over again. And once you have moved more stories to done, which means you have pushed these stories into the integration tests in the integration environments and the testing environments. This means, first of all, more tests on the same features. And this leads to earlier detection of issues. So we have the time to resolve them, and we have the time to increase our quality and our predictability, because our ability to provide a better or higher value product is we have more time for it, and we have more flexibility also in when are we solving each case. And moreover, I must say that in terms of velocity, this creates balance, because when you have so many tickets that were just waiting for the SDD approval, and then you push them all together, then you discover a lot more issues in peaks. And once you have peaks,
yes,
then you cannot balance the work on your people. So
you're flooded.
Exactly. Well, we have the opportunity in our hands to do it differently. So move more stories to done using incremental SDDs is one great thing that we have done in this use case. If we go back, yeah.
Okay, I was not sure if you wanted to show the Jira sprint now or not. Never mind.
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay,
thank you. So you're right. If we made it so nicely, we want to show it.
So that's the second sprint.
Yes, and you can see that we have moved into 70% of our stories. Please count on me. I counted them. Around 77% of completion of the stories within the sprint. That was a huge success. Many things that were previously still waiting for in-verification, we could press them forward. It had more implications about the quality and things that were literally found earlier, but we'll keep that aside and we'll move to our next improvement cycle. Before going into it, I will go to the slide. There we go. Back to the format of the sprint report. And I have, as I indicated before, our first part of the sprint report is the burndown chart. Now, it's a really good chart that shows us the velocity and the predictability chart. And this specific, and I will explain about how it works and how to read it. I'll just say that this specific burndown chart is very good. I'm willing to pay money to have my team work this way. It usually works a bit different, and I'll show the different aspects. So how do we read it? I'll explain the axes first, and then we'll go through the lines. So on the x-axis, we have the sprint dates. It begins at the first day of the sprint, and it ends at the end of the sprint. That's the amount of days that we see here. On the y-axis, we see the story points that were allocated to the sprint. Now, the specific point of 40 story points, that is the amount of story points that were in the sprint when the sprint began. We later on add or remove a story points. We will see that later. But the minute we press the start sprint, the amount of story points that were allocated is recorded. Now we see two lines. One last remark, you see the gray columns, those are non-working days. Okay, those are Saturday and Sunday. So what is the gray line? Well, the gray line shows us the ideal pace of work, assuming linear progress. This means that if we work in a linear progress, every day we should be completing this amount of story points in order to achieve 0 story points to be done exactly by the end of the sprint. So this is our leading line, and we compare ourselves to it. Okay. Now the red line is our actual line. That's why it's way more hectic, right? If it goes down, it means that we have completed a task, or we have removed it from the sprint. If we have, if the red line goes up, then it means that we have added a ticket to the sprint, or we have enlarged the amount of story points that we given to a specific task. If it's horizontal, it means there was no change in Jira, which usually means one of two things: or that the stories, nothing was moved to done. Okay, maybe the story is too big, and that's why we don't see any progress. But also it might be that the Jira is not updated. So we will soon see an example that we always have to take into consideration and check if our Jira is updated enough. So I brought two examples to read it a little bit. One is the overshooting. As you see here, the red line is above the gray one, way above the gray one. And you can already see on November 5th that if we are moving in this space, we will not be finishing on time what we have planned. And this is how predictability works, because you see, you have a comparison line. You can see that you should be at around 30 story points, but you are in 48. Now, also, as I told before, when you have horizontal lines, so it's probably also so large, overlapping a couple of days, and during a couple of days, and it probably means something about the update of the stories. They're not updated, or that they are too big, so nothing shows and nothing has visibility into which status they are, because they are in progress until they're done. So if they're long, then it will just take longer. So that is overshooting. We see that the red line is way above the gray one. We see that we have on the second week, they have put some tickets into done. This usually means when we have so many downstairs that the stories were too big, so they worked on it for a week and a half, and then moving them fast to done because they worked on them parallelly and long tasks. And we also see, because of the gray column, is that we had an excited team lead that has moved everything to done on Sunday morning just to make sure that he looks good on the data.
I think it was me. Okay.
Working around the clock, Rina, I know you. And the second example that I wanted to show is the unstable content. Here you can see that the red line goes down and then goes up. When it goes down, that means that the content was completed. But every time it goes up, it means that the content was added to the sprint. And what we see here is a team that is not, it can be one that the sprint wasn't well planned. Okay, so they are adding things, or that they are not keeping the health of the sprint, and they are adding things as they come, which makes it almost like working in Kanban, because once you don't have any
commitment to scope.
Exactly. If you don't have any, if you add more and more items and you don't make it very strict that you add very specific items into the sprint, and it becomes like a bucket rather than a useful idea of what we are planned to finish. So let's go back into our case. And what we have seen here is the reopened spike. You see here on the right side, the unstable content. And when we moved, every time you press one specific gray dot, then you see why something was added or removed. And you can see here, for just one example, that the issue was reopened. And when we reviewed everything, all these spikes, and we saw that a lot of things were reopened, and we wanted to know if this is something that happens a lot? How many times does it happen on big items or small items? Just to understand a little bit. And as you know us, this means that we moved into alignment again, and we wanted to add the information for better root cause analysis.
And what we did here is actually added 4 different fields into the stories. One of them is the reopens count, that counts every time that something bounces back from done. This is populated automatically, so there's a Jira automation rule that will count every time that something is reopened. And then we had some more specific fields to show the reopen reason for the last reopen, the reopened by, so what's the role of the person who reopened, and some reopened notes. And this is something that is completed by the person who reopens, and that's actually allows us to do analysis and understand what actually causes those spikes of reopens, because reopens are really bad. Something is not really done. It's actually reopens. It ruins all our predictability.
Do you want to show the dashboard of what we have found after working on it for a couple of weeks?
Yes. Is there a dashboard somewhere? Yes, probably this.
Yeah,
which one
exactly.
is it?
So yeah, on the right one, on the right column. So the left side was yeah, precisely. Thanks. So no, that's the other one, the one on the right. The reopened. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what we've seen after a couple of weeks is that 53%, 8 out of 15 tickets were reopened by QA, and 2 more by product owner, and 1 by a business user, and 4 by customers. But we see that more than half are opened by QA. And if you can go to the next one, then we will see that the reason for opening them were defects mostly. And that's interesting because only 3 out of the 15, which is also a high percentage, because 15 is quite a small number, so everyone counts, right? We see that those are missed acceptance criteria. So we can see here that most of the problems of the QA is on things that don't work properly. And we wanted to dive in a little bit further and to understand also the developer's perspective on this. And I'll go back to my slides now. And what does it mean, defects? And so we finished with for a minute with the data, and we got the visibility that I showed. And now it was time for some root cause analysis. So we will show soon what we have done, because we took this information and we wanted to dive in a little bit more. Why? Why does it happen? And for that, we wanted to use the Rovo tool. The Rovo tool is the Atlassian's AI tool that is integrated within Jira and allows in natural language to ask questions that can go from complex JQLs written and spoken into a very in-depth analysis, prioritizations requests, and so on. So let's review. For this, we built a bot, an AI agent that was called Engineering Ops Sprint Analyzer. And Rina, to you.
Yes. So first of all, just to see this agent in action, and I just use native agent editing tools. I really did not spend too much time on this, but I created a reasonable prompt so that this engineering operations will know what to look at and what we are trying to find. I'll share this prompt later. And the prompt, the question that he knows to answer, so he knows to answer questions about sprint performance. And one of the things I asked it is, how can we improve our sprint cycle time? And I'm asking it in real time. So, you are not seeing a video recording here. This is actually Rovo doing analysis of the data. And we were actually pretty impressed by the performance of the answers. So the answers that he gives are definitely reasonable example. It tells us that we have a high reopen rate, that we have repeating patterns with around the regressions, missed requirements, and even he attempts to give us the systemic problems that it sees in our data, and suggested solutions. And then he even goes and tries to explain what are the things that we need to focus on. Now, this is, I don't say that you need to accept it as is and not use people with the expertise of operation engineer, but it's the speed by which he analyzed the data is worth using because he can point you into directions you would spend hours to discover. Also, what happens over time, that if you interact with it between sprint and sprint, over time, it will understand what you want to focus on, what are the key areas, what you consider to be good input from your side, and he will be improving and be aligned more on what you need. So what I will do, because we are pretty short in time, I will not show you the prompt now. I will post it on the LinkedIn page afterward, and it will also exist on the YouTube description. And I invite everybody. It really takes a few minutes to plug it into Rovo and start using it and play with it and adapt it to actually how you want to work. Okay, I will remove this and add this to stage.
Okay, so as Rina said, we as Rovo analyzed and it produced a couple of reasons of root cause analysis, we took this into the next into the physical room, and we had some developer interviews. We reviewed by eye and sampled 10 specific tickets just to read it ourselves to understand how things are going. And we wanted to understand whether developers skip code checks or the definitions are unclear. And one of the things that we already saw in the previous data, but also according to what the developer said, and what Rovo suggested, is that both hypotheses were true. The more urgent or bigger problem was that lack of accountability. You want to do as many. The developers wanted to do as many tasks as possible. Moved fast into the QA. Whether it will, if it succeeds, nice. If not, we will get it back. And the second thing was that some of the requirements, some of the tickets led to assumptions, and those assumptions, different people, different assumptions, led to a high rate of reopening. So what we did was, one, added the metric of rework based on this counter that Rina has shown us, and the average amount of reopen per developer. So developers understood the importance that we give it. And the second thing, we enforced the definition of done and the acceptance criteria as mandatory, because we understood that working in a big company or when trying to reduce as much as possible the friction, we need things to be very written in one way, in a common language, and shared in a specific way. So this is what we did, and then the numbers went really high. I think that we really one of the things that we saw is that the amount of defects has been reduced, and also people were saying that there was something about the satisfaction. The noise was reduced in the room because a lot more information was written. People took more accountability, so there was less tension between the developers and the QAs. If we summarize, and then around this use case, and one, the Jira provides us the foundational data layer where we work. And that's one key takeaway that I want to say. I want to say that optimization never ends. It's always recurring, always every time on a different aspect. And in this term, as we saw, moving things to done led to earlier detection and higher quality. So environments should be the challenge, but not the excuse. And breaking assumptions and leading to innovative solutions or practical solutions is a key to it. And it's super possible. And that's it. Questions?
So, Gabi, we are.
Fine.
No, that is fine. We can stay around.
Mm-hmm.
We will. So we invite question.
Exactly.
Put it in the comment in the live stream. We'll give it another minute or two to see if someone adds actually comments now, because I'm looking in half an eye on LinkedIn. I do not see comments, but let's wait another minute here to see if someone posts them. And if not, people, you can put comments on the LinkedIn page even after the live stream. Me and Gabi will check out the page during the day, and if there's something that requires our attention, we will respond there. And of course, you can contact us. So both me and Gabi are pretty active on LinkedIn, but also through our mail and whatever way, meaning these are the two main channels, either by email or on LinkedIn. Contact us and we will be very happy to continue that discussion.
Amazing.
Okay, Gabi, thank you. I see that there's no comment at the moment, so people are still digesting, and I think that people are actually rushing to their next meeting. Very likely.
I totally understand. It was a pleasure being here and building this use case with you, Rina. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. It was a joy having you, and it's a very interesting topic. So, and thank you for building the community and for sharing all this knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.